Hello students, today we'll start a new chapter, that is chapter 3, motion in a straight line. In this chapter, we'll study how to describe motion, and we develop the concept of velocity and acceleration, and also we study the motion of an object along a straight line. So, in today's class, we'll define and understand some basic physical quantities. Those are distance, displacement, and the difference between distance and displacement, speed, average speed, velocity, uniform and non-uniform velocity, average velocity, instantaneous velocity in terms of average velocity, and difference between speed and velocity. Let's understand the mechanics. It's a branch of physics which deals with the study of motion of a material object. It's nothing but a study of motion, that is called mechanics. Next, we talk about the concept of point object. If the size of an object is very small in comparison with the distance traveled by it, then the object is said to be point object. Next, we talk about particle. A particle is a point mass. It's simply a point mass. Next, we talk about this rest. What is this rest? A particle is said to be at rest if it does not changes its position with respect to its surrounding with time. Is called it is at rest. Next, we study about motion. A particle is said to be in motion if it changes its position with respect to its surroundings with time is called motion. Let's understand distance, that is path length. The length of an actual path covered by a particle in a given time interval is called distance. So when a particle travels from A to B, it is a length of an actual path covered by it in a certain given time interval. Now we'll talk about this. Distance is a scalar quantity. It has only magnitude, not the direction. The SI unit of distance is meter. Now we can understand that it is always positive, okay? And it cannot be zero or it cannot be negative for a moving particle. Because for a moving particle, it cannot be at rest, that is zero, or it cannot move backward, that is negative. It depends on an actual path followed by a particle. Now we'll define displacement. The shortest distance between the initial and the final position of the particle in a given time interval is called displacement. As we have studied about the distance, a particle travel from A to B in a given time interval, but here in displacement, in that the shortest distance between A and B is nothing but the displacement. We'll understand displacement is a vector quantity because it has a particular direction and the magnitude. The SI unit is also meter. This does not depend on actual path followed by the particle. It can be positive, zero, or negative for a moving particle. Now let's see the difference between this distance and displacement. So in first we understand distance. The length of an actual path covered by the particle in a given interval of time is distance. Whereas displacement is the shortest distance between the initial and the final position of a particle in a given time interval is called displacement. Next comes, it depends on an actual path followed by the particle, that is distance. Then whereas displacement, it does not depend on the actual path followed by the particle. Distance is a scalar quantity and displacement is a vector quantity. This distance is always positive and cannot be zero or negative for a moving particle, whereas displacement, it can be positive, zero, or negative for a moving particle. This difference between distance and displacement is important as per your examination is concerned. Let's understand speed. Speed is defined as a distance covered by a body per unit time. If we try to write mathematically, speed is equal to distance by time. We understand if x is the distance covered by a body in time t, then speed can be given as x, that is distance, divided by t, that is time. Speed is a scalar quantity as it has only magnitude, not the direction. The SI unit of speed is meter per second. This speed can be positive or zero but cannot be negative. Let's define the average speed. The ratio of total distance covered by the body to the total time taken is called average speed. If x1, x2 up to xn are the distance covered by the body in time, that is t1, t2 up to tn respectively, then the average speed is V average is equal to x1 plus x2 up to xn divided by t1 plus t2 up to tn. Let's understand the concept velocity. Velocity of a body is defined as the displacement of a body per unit time. If we try to write in a mathematical form, velocity is equal to displacement by time. If x is the displacement of a body in a time t, then velocity v can be written as x, that is displacement of a body, divided by t, that is time. Velocity is a vector quantity as it has direction and magnitude. The SI unit of velocity is meter per second. The velocity is a speed in a particular direction, and this velocity can be positive, zero, or negative. Let's understand the uniform and non-uniform velocity. Let's define uniform velocity. If the body covers equal displacement in equal interval of time, then its velocity is said to be uniform. Let's define the non-uniform velocity. If the body covers unequal displacement in equal interval of time, then its velocity is said to be non-uniform. Let's define average velocity. The average velocity of a body is defined as the ratio of its total displacement to the total time taken. If S is the total displacement of a body in t seconds, then the average velocity we can write in a mathematically, that is average velocity VAV is equal to S, that is total displacement, divided by T, that is total time taken. We can also write it as V average is equal to x2 minus x1 by t2 minus t1, where the position of the body changes from x2 to x1 in a time t2 to t1. As per your examination is concerned, the instantaneous velocity is very important. Let us define this instantaneous velocity. The velocity of a body moving with a variable velocity at any instant of time is called instantaneous velocity, or we can define as the velocity of a body at a particular instant of time is called its instantaneous velocity. Let's understand the concept instantaneous velocity in terms of average velocity. The instantaneous velocity is defined as a limit of the average velocity as the time interval delta t tends to 0. We can write it as v is equal to limit of v as delta t tends to 0, that is time tends to 0, which is equal to limit delta x by delta t as delta t tends to 0, which is equal to dx by dt. Till now, we studied about the speed and the velocity. Let's understand the difference between this speed and velocity. Speed is the distance covered per unit time, whereas the velocity is the displacement made per unit time. This speed is a scalar quantity and velocity is the vector quantity. The speed can be positive, 0, but cannot be negative, but velocity can be positive, 0 or negative. The average speed cannot be 0, but the average velocity can be 0. Till now, we studied the basic physical quantities like speed, velocity, distance, displacement, etc., which are very important as per your examination is concerned. In the next class, we'll study about the acceleration and derive the equation of motion. Thank you.